Hey guys, Camfrey15 back at it with another video for you guys, back with another My Happy Marriage episode review for you guys as we continue on with more My Happy Marriage Season 2 as we see what's going on. We got some interesting stuff in the background developing. I think we found out where the traitor area is coming from. Mio has a nice heart-to-heart moment with Kudo. And then as well as Kazuki giving her some good advice. So let's get into it. So we start the episode off basically in this meeting with Takahito. And basically, before the meeting even took place, he has his attendant named Takakuro. And basically, Takahito was saying, listen, one of these ministers that are going to come up in here, they're going to be basically the traitor, right? They're going to be the traitor that is feeding the information, the gifted communion, and telling them what's going on. Because you remember from last week, we found out through Kudo that there is an inside man in the building, and said inside man is, well, plain and simple, feeding the gifted communion and Usui information about what's going on in the government span of things, so then he can try to take over. So you just have it to where Takakuro, he's deducing one by one, and even he was told by Takahito, hey, don't let your emotions get in the way, because that's what they're going to want you to do. They're what emotions to get out of the way and lead you astray. And if you're reacting through to someone's emotions thinking, oh, that's the gifted communion traitor, well, that's going to be obviously the wrong person. So, hey, look, it makes the most sense. Typically these characters, and again, like I said, Usui is kind of like a freaking Aizen type of character. It's kind of the thing, right? So anyways, overall, they're kind of discussing about what to do in rebuttal to the gifted communion. And basically Prince Takahito is like, look, our strategy is going to basically be defensive. We're going to make sure we have strong defenses to combat anything that the gifted communion is. And honestly, it's probably for the best that, what we need to do right now. So basically, Takahito's more worried about being defensive right now and just focusing in on one place, and that's just protecting the palace. Really, that's basically it. So that's the thing. It then leads to the next scene where Mio walks into a room where it's Prince Takahito, Kazuki, I forgot her maid, her maid, Miss Yuri, and we actually see Kazuko, Jinochi returns. Thank you. I'm so happy to see that Jinochi is not being pushed to the side completely yet. Because I thought realistically a few weeks ago, or I think it was last week's episode, I thought it was going to be like the last time we were ever going to probably see her for maybe the rest of the season. If not, we'd probably see her in the final couple of episodes, play a role in trying to start the gifted communion. But no, we actually see her again immediately. And basically Kazuki is like, hey, we're gonna have a girls' night out, right? You just kind of have it where, I guess, Takahito, he's pretending to be a woman. I don't know. Maybe he's, I'm not, well, maybe he's bi or something like that. Maybe he has that type of idealistic thinking. But I feel like he was morally here just to get the chance to talk with Mio. But they basically have a nice, good time, and you have it to where Takahito is basically falls asleep, and Yuri goes to basically attend to him while he's asleep. And you kind of have a conversation between Jinochi, Kazuki, and Mio, and it's kind of dives into romance and love. Kazuki kind of eats at Jinochi, and it's inferred or implied from this conversation that Jinochi is in love with Mr. Goto, which is interesting. And I believe Goto is Kudo's right-hand man, the one guy that got attacked by the trap, right? I think that is right. But at first she's like, "Whoa, I don't, he's my senpai essentially, right? He's my commander. I'm not gonna do all that." And obviously, Kazuki is like, "Oh, come on, there's got to be something." And basically, Junichi is like, "Look, I realistically don't have time for romance and everything, and that's not really in the cards for me." Now she doesn't deny that she doesn't want to have like a serious relationship with someone or Godo down the road, but she feels like right now they would just be more of a burden to her, and she doesn't want to really focus on that whole thing. So it is interesting, right? And she also goes on to make a mention. It's easy to lose track of yourself in the process when the other person's feelings are more of a factor. And she basically goes on to say how love made her feel like she was weak. And Mio kind of relates to that, right? A bit. And she kind of uses the thing of like, if you really do love someone, like it can basically spur your decision making and the way you act because of how strongly you feel about somebody. And maybe she could be pointing this out in the whole thing of, the relationship between her mother and Usui, because we know Usui deeply cared about Mio's mother, to the point like he basically became a terrorist just to try to get revenge on what happened to Mio's mom, right? And try to claim Mio as his daughter. And then, it's kind of a trope too, the whole thing of like people being crazy for love. Like you'll do anything. Like if you're in love with someone, it might just change who you are as an individual because you deeply love about this person. You deeply love somebody you're clearly loving and you clearly care about them to the point like, who knows, that might make you it might make it to where you do something that goes against your character, something that you wouldn't do. Like if you truly do love someone and you're blinded by your love, if that person you're in love with says go kill this person, if you're massively in love and you feel like that's the thing I got to do to keep her in love with me, well, you're gonna probably go kill somebody. And I think that's kind of what Mio was kind of implying, right? Um, about it, right? But then that's when Kazuki gets involved. She's like, look, I have a few years on you guys. I've been married. I know what it is. She goes and talks about how the divorce happened. And she kind of says, like, look, me and, dude was madly in love with each other. And it's like, okay, then what was the issue that came up that made you guys end up obviously divorcing, right? And she ended up saying basically it's because realistically, we basically started our argument over how other people thought about our relationship. And because of it, we were both aware, stupidly aware, and we were focused on what others thought about us, and we didn't really connected. And basically Kazuki's like, by then, like it was too little too late to fix the relationship, and we obviously divorced. And basically she just tells Mio and Jinochi, like, the number one thing if you're going to get into this relationship and we're into a relationship or you're in love with someone, the number one thing is to communicate with each other, about your love and how strong it is and everything. Basically, she essentially just says, like, listen, just communicate with these people. Just communicate with your loved ones. Communicate with your with your partner. Make them know what's going on in your life. Make them know how you're feeling about something. If there's something problematic that troubles you, let them know, because at the end of the day, that shows you how much you truly love them, and they will understand, right? They may be upset in the moment, but at least they'll know, hey, no, I really do truly care and love you. That's why I'm bringing this up. So it was honestly good advice by Kazuki, especially from a woman that's divorced. You can tell, like, no, she truly loved her ex-husband. They got into an argument. They clearly did not communicate over this whole situation, resolve their issue. And by the time like she maybe realized, like, this is what I got to do, it was already too late, to the point the relationship had to be split. So that's she feels like she can't go back in a relationship. Maybe at the end of this story, at some point, it's back with her ex-husband. and they just, remarry again. It would honestly kind of bring a full circle type of thing to her story too, of having this past, having it, acknowledged of her past, and then, going back and rectifying it. But maybe her way of rectifying the past is accepting the fact that, no, I'm gonna be okay with this divorce. This is the mess up I made, and I have learned from it. So maybe that's the case. Maybe she'll just marry someone else, and she'll learn from this past marriage she had, what not to do. But I kind of really do hope by the end of My Happy Marriage that Kazuki just ends up remarrying her ex-husband again, right? And they just get back together. I think, like, for her, I think maybe there's still some things it seems like she might need to work on, but it still seems like, hey, she's completely okay with probably remarrying. It seems like the relationship is good now, so, it's an interesting thing to think about, right? But that basically happens. You have it to where Takahito and Mio talk. He brings up about their spiritual or their special abilities and everything, and how much, even though it's good that they have it, it is pretty much kind of a curse to them, because especially when it comes to using their powers to see into the future. And he brings up this interesting thing about snow, right? And he asked me, it was like, hey, you like snow? And she's like, I guess, yeah. And basically Takahito's like, I used to like snow at some point, but then bad things kind of started to happen, and basically that's kind of a premonition of things to come. And he was basically kind of implying, like, once snow drops, things start to pile on, and things could go from bad to worse. And I feel like that's definitely foreshadowing what we're going to be seeing for the remaining part of this arc. Not just the arc, just the season in general. So it is interesting to think about. So it's like, okay, foreshadowing much. He ends up walking up. Anyways, Mio ends up saying goodbye to Kudo as he goes off to his day of work, and then she ends up having a conversation later in the evening with Arata. And basically Arata kind of is like, hey, if there's something, you need to tell me that you're not confident with telling Kudo, I just want to let you know, like, I'm someone here, I'm here that, you can rely on, and he is saying how, if anything dares to basically trouble you, I'm going to be the one to destroy it. And when I'm like, that awfully reminds me about the scene that Usui had with Sumi in the flashback that we saw last week, where he basically told Usui that no matter what, he's going to protect her, from anybody that he views as a threat to her, right? And that was the moment when Sumi was like, okay, that's fine, but don't go the way that I want you to go. I don't want you to harm or hurt people. And it's interesting that Arata said something similar to that, right? Now, Mio never gives off that point of saying, like, look, thank you for that, but please don't hurt nobody. But you see, they're clearly teasing that Arata may, and I mean may, turn on, obviously, Kudo and the others, because he feels like it's his destiny to take care of Mio. This is his purpose. This has always been his purpose, to be her protector and eventually, essentially be married to her, right? And we already know a few episodes, Usui put that in his mind of saying, like, Kudo shouldn't be the one to have Mio. You should be the one to have Mio, because, let's be honest, you and me are alike. You're having somebody that you deeply care about getting married off to some other dude, when in reality, that's you. That's your responsibility, not him. And you can already see, I'm not saying he's taken on the tendencies, but this conversation here, really, when I watched it, I even watched it again before I made this review, I'm like, This scene reminded me a lot of that flashback scene last week when Mio looked in the past and saw Usui basically telling Sumi, I don't care who gets in your way. I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna take care of the problem to make sure you get through it. So it's interesting. And then all of a sudden they see a carriage come in, and it's it's the Minister of Education. And he comes in and basically he's like acting as if he didn't know, like had gotten lost. Now Arata's telling him like, you need to go and you need to leave. And the dude's like, oh, come on. I'll pay you a nice fee if you can come work with me, if you come work for me, while using your special abilities, right? And Archer's not having none of this, right? To the point he starts to get a little bit physical. But then you have it to where Takakuro shows up and basically is like, you're not supposed to be here. You need to leave the premises. This is the prince's private, basically, quarters. And basically, the Minister of Education is getting in upwards of upheaval, and he's like, "Oh, please, these people, yeah." So that thing, anyway, he peacefully leaves for now, but then the attendant basically walks up to Arata and kind of hints that, and basically tells him like, "Yeah." So we find out that basically it's the Minister of Education who is the traitor, and mostly the traitor is his attendant that is definitely working for the cryptic commune. So we know that now. Maybe the Minister of Education is also in on the get to communion stuff. So that's kind of the thing right then and there. And then the last bit of the episode is another Kudo and Mio bonding episode, and Mio getting and more of an understanding about Kudo. Now Kudo at first he was wondering if Mio's okay, and obviously she's like, I'm fine. And then it leads to them going to their bedroom, and we find out that there's only one futon right there that they got to share. And Kudo's like, this was Takahito's doing. So I'm guessing my thing is Taka. Okay, so it seemed like potentially by the time we get to, and I'll talk about what Kudo talked about, right? And essentially, it seemed like, Kudo was gonna maybe potentially go all the way with Mio if she was okay with it, because he started to get very close and he was gonna lean in for a kiss, and they're in the same bed, and he might have, went all the way with her. But Mio turned away at the last minute because she wasn't ready to go do that everything. Right. But I have to wonder if Takahito's like, they need to consummate the marriage. So I don't know. Again, like I said, I feel at some point, Mio's going to be comfortable and she's going to be okay with Kudo kissing her, and maybe even going even further than that to the point they're, doing the deed, right? But it looked like, oh shit, are we gonna have it to where like they're gonna do the deed, and before the episode ends, Mio's gonna wake up and say like, I can't believe we just did that, right? And it's gonna be like kind of a reflection of the kiss, but no, she turns away. But the one interesting point that they pull out of this conversation was Mio asked him like, Lord Kudo, did you love any of your other fiance choices, right? Before I came along. And kind of pulling back to the conversation she had with his sister Kazuki, and basically Kudo basically goes on to make a mention like, no, I didn't. You're the first one that I truly love. And he basically said he felt like all the other candidates were just there, and they were just there basically to be wed to him for political reasons, essentially. And basically, he until he met her, he's changed for the better. So that's kind of the thing. It's nice to see, right? And he even asked Mio like, what, do you not trust me? And she turns around, she's like, no, I trust you. And then that's kind of the thing, right? But again, it's more it's more of a great thing, and also it shows Pluto's insecurities, because like even in the conversation he goes in depth talking about how like maybe he was just afraid to take an honest look at the candidates for who they are, or for who they were, right? And things like that. So yeah, but anyways, I'm gonna get it for guys. If you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts, and hit that subscribe button if you want to get more of my happy marriage content or any other anime content I upload to the channel. Till then, guys, stay safe out there and have a great rest of your day or your night or this video. Till then, guys, peace.